Okay, I'm back for another installment of making it work, cooking for the new depression. So today I decided to do Welsh Rabbit. It's also known as Welsh Rabbit, and surprisingly, Welsh Rabbit does not have any rabbit in it or any meat at all. The other thing I wanted to say is if you're gonna be looking at that recipe, you'll see that they use a double boiler. I don't have a double boiler. So what I'm gonna try to do though is just make it, I have a saucepan. I'm gonna put water in that one and a slightly smaller saucepan that I'm gonna put into it. And I think that this will be okay because in this particular case, you want the water to be hot and not boiling. That's what it says in the recipe. So, so I'm not that worried about if it can get hot enough. I know it can. So I'm gonna do it that way. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so the first thing we wanna do is, first thing it says is to make a white sauce in the top, smaller one, of the double boiler of the first 6 ingredients. And they are 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 cup of milk, half a teaspoon of salt, a few grains of pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of mustard. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is that this calls for 6 slices of buttered toast, and there is only me at my house, so I do not want to make that much. So I'm actually having the entire recipe. You can do the full one if you want, or break it in half, or however you want to do it. So here we go. First thing, 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm gonna get out my knife here, just a second. And one of the great things about this is that nowadays we have the actual measurements right there on the butter. I don't know if they did back in the day in the 30s or not. I'm not really sure. They actually have in this recipe book pictures, and they do have sticks of butter like this, but it's in their boxes, so you can't actually tell. All right, so 1 tablespoon of butter, I'm gonna do that in half, so it's gonna be half a tablespoon. There's 1 full right there, just doing it in half. Off. Okay, so I've got the butter there. Set that to one side. We want 1 tablespoon of flour, so of course I'm gonna do half a tablespoon. I was very lucky because my cousin saw that I didn't have any flour and couldn't get any right now at the store, so she gifted me some flour. So half a tablespoon of flour. Nice one right there. Set that aside. Okay, and 1 cup of milk. All right. And you'll see I've got evaporated milk here, and that is because in this delineator cookbook, they were, of course, saying what well-stocked pantries should have, and there was quite an interest in anything canned, basically, because of how long it would last. So you can see right there in this one, in this picture here, they say that you've got to have evaporated milk and that it can be used in any dish that calls for milk. So I thought I'd give it a try. I just lost my place in this very nice recipe book. Trying to find it again. There we go. Welsh Rabbit. Okay. So this calls for 1 cup of milk. So I'm going to do half a cup. Half a cup. There we go. The evaporated milk has sort of a little bit of like a beigey tone to it, or as my sister said when she was younger, beigey, because she had trouble getting any words right. Let's see. Okay. So half a teaspoon of salt. So that means we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've got kosher salt here, and it's coarsely ground. You may want to go with table salt. Of course, kosher salt is great because it requires less since they're bigger flakes, but it does not have any, it's not iodized, so. And as humans, we need iodine, and that doesn't help you get it. Okay, so few grains of pepper is what it says. Obviously, I don't have grains, and I guess what they mean is like peppercorns. But so I'm just gonna kind of wing it with a little bit of pepper to go in there. Not a lot, just a little tad. Okay. And now we need a 1/4 teaspoon of mustard. Okay, 1/4 teaspoon of mustard. If you're like me, you don't actually have a 1/4 teaspoon, so just fill up the 1/2 teaspoon halfway, and that'll be good. Okay. So you want to mix those. I'm mixing mine here with my wooden spoon, and then it goes for the whole double boiler thing. So you're going to need to put water in that bigger of the saucepans. actually got what I think is a little too much water, so pour it a little bit out. So I'm just gonna let that sit there for a minute so that it can get hot enough for me to put this in and start mixing it. Since we need it to be hot but not boiling, don't let it boil. All right, so in the meantime, what we're gonna do is, it says to, you can either finely cut or grate a 1/4 pound of cheese. I'm not gonna do a 1/4 pound, but I'm going to do a big mound of it, I decided. So I got my grater out here. We'll get that going. As I mentioned before, they do want you to have 6 slices of buttered toast. I haven't actually toasted my bread yet. It's in there just waiting, but you want it to be warm when you put the sauce on it. So at the moment, I'm just gonna grate this cheese. Eventually you'll add this to the white sauce. A variation that they have in here that you can use is 1/2 cup of chopped olives. You would add that at the very end, obviously. I might do that, I'll think about it. We'll see how it goes. All right, so my thing was just about to come to a boil. So I turned it down to low, and I'm just stirring around this to melt the butter and get everything all sort of mixed in. The butter's almost melted down there. I can just see a little cube of it left, so just gonna make sure to stir that up. I'll give you an idea of what it looks like here. You can see it's slanted since I don't have the double boiler, but it works out fine for this little amount because it goes right down to the bottom where the hot water is below it. Okay, so I think what would be good at this point is to go ahead and toast your bread. And keep stirring up the white sauce in the meantime. Okay, let's see. So at this point, it says that we can add the cheese. And then you just cook and stir until the cheese is melted. So I'm gonna do that. Got some small tiny lumps still of flour, but I'm hoping those will break down. So one of the things that you'll notice is, at least I've noticed when I'm going through this cookbook, is that they do have recipes with meat. So people obviously were still eating meat, but I think that in a lot of cases that would have been the most expensive part of the meal. And especially if you were cooking for a family or a rather large family, you would quite likely have decided to try other proteins. So you will find a lot of the recipes that they're looking for other protein sources aside from meat. And that actually suits me fine because I've been a vegetarian for about 25 years. Although I'm not really that bothered by any of the meat recipes because, of course, you know, we have so many options now to add, you know, fake meat, ground beef-like things and what have you. But I'm really interested in the kinds of things that they were doing instead. And some of them are very weird. I mean, they have your usual, like, so many variations on nut loaf and the like. They have mock sausage that they make up. And again, like, you're using beans that you're sort of forming into a sausage-like structure, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, they have peanut butter cutlets. I might try that one at a later date just because it's so weird. But they have some very odd things that I would like to sort of put out there for people to try. And most of the things that they use peanut butter for are savory, you know. They do have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but one thing you'll notice is that even the sandwiches, they will mix peanut butter and jelly together into a spread. And then in another case, they have, of course, peanut butter and pickles and stuff, but they mix them together into a sandwich spread. Okay, so my cheese is melted. You're gonna wanna see the color on that there. It looks very much like Velveeta. So there you have that. It's pretty much ready then to go over my toast when it gets out. Maybe we'll go ahead and chop up a few olives then, since we're still waiting on the toast to be done. I actually have sort of at the beginning of this, it was hard to get just regular, you know, black olives. So I actually have Spanish manzanilla olives that have, they've got pimento peppers in them. So that's kind of a nice little extra there. They are, however, I want to point this out, they are very salty. So you're going to want to go easy on them so you don't overdo it with the salt. Salty taste. All right, so I'm just gonna maybe get 2 or 3 to add there. Well, it looks like my bread is almost done. Okay. Honestly, how you plate this to make it look good, I have no idea. But I have grown my own cilantro and green onions. So I might try to garnish a little bit with my green onions. When I chopped them up, after I harvested them, I just went ahead and put them in a little baggie, so I've been using them all week. Then all right, push all those aside for the moment. You're gonna want to take your cheese sauce off, give it a little stir. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't look great. It's not gonna be a very pretty dish. I don't know how they made this look good, to be honest with you. Maybe a sprig of parsley on the side or something. I don't actually have parsley. Put a little bit of my olives just scattered there. It's an ugly dish, but hopefully it tastes good. Okay. All right, guys, there you have it. Here we go. Welsh Rarebit. It's really odd, but I'm guessing that you eat it with a fork. You can it's my cat. You can fancify it a bunch of different ways, but at its very core, this is the recipe that they were using in the Depression, and there was nothing special about it, that's for sure. So maybe we'll try some peanut butter cutlets next week and see how that goes. All right, see you later, guys.